Hi and welcome to ShoFar Made Simple. First of all, let me start off by wishing you all a Shana Tova U'Mesuka, a good, happy, sweet and healthy new year. The goal of this video is twofold. Number one, is to actually demonstrate physically how to blow a shofar. And secondly, it's going to teach the halachot, the laws of blowing shofar, so that it's blown halachically correctly. The shofar itself should be a ram's horn, and that's to remind us of the binding of Yitzchak, which we read on Rosh Hashanah. It should be bent, and the reason is the idea is that we also need to bend ourselves and to turn to God on the high holy days. It shouldn't have any holes in the shaft. Of course, it's got the hole fashioned here for the mouthpiece, and out of here is where the sound comes, but right down here it shouldn't have any cracks or holes. And also, one stands when one blows the shofar. I'm going to sit now because this is just a demonstration. Okay, what are the halachos, the laws of blowing the shofar? Let's first of all go back to the Torah itself in its source. We have a pasuk, a verse in the Sedra of Pinchas in Bamidbar, chapter 29, verse 1, which says and describes Rosh Hashanah as being Yom Teruah Yihye Lochem. It should be for you a day of Teruah. And in fact, the Torah mentions Teruah 3 times on Rosh Hashanah, twice in connection with Rosh Hashanah, and a 3rd time in connection with the Yom Kippur of the Jubilee year. And our sages learn that since the Torah mentions Teruah 3 times, therefore each one is learned from the other. So Rosh Hashanah is a day of a Teruah times 3. We should blow 3 times a teruah. Then, in the Sedra of Behar, in Vayikra, chapter 25, verse 9, the Torah says, V'ha'avarta shofar teruah b'chodesh hashvi. And you should blow a shofar in the 7th month. Now, the word V'ha'avarta is understood as ha'avaras koil poshet, as a long, simple sound. And after the word teruah, the Torah also says ta'aviru shofar, you should blow a long, simple sound. And therefore we learn from there that you have a day, Rosh Hashanah, of teruah, but before the teruah and after the teruah, there is a long, simple sound, V'ha'avarta shofar, which is something we call a tekiah. So therefore, on Rosh Hashanah, we need to blow tekiah, teruah, tekiah 3 times. That is the biblical command, that on the day of the Rosh Hashanah, we blow a tekiah, a long sound, a teruah, which we'll discuss in a minute what is a teruah, and then followed by another tekiah 3 times. Now, what exactly does the Torah mean when it says the word teruah? So, Onkelos, who wrote the Aramaic translation on the Torah, translates teruah as yabava. What is a yabava? If we have a look in the book of Shoftim, in the story of Deborah and Sisera, there we find that, of course, towards the end, Sisera is killed by Yael, and it says that Be'ad hachaloin nishkafa v'tayabev aim Sisera. The mother of Sisera looked out of the window and she wailed. The verse says, Vatayabev, same word as the word Yabava. And hence we know that the word teruah, Aramaically translated as yabava, and as expressed in the verse by Sisera, means an idea of wailing. But we're not really sure what type of wail is this. Is it a gonach, a groan, or is it a yalil, a staccato sob? Now, what I'm going to do in this demonstration, before I actually blow the shofar, is just to do it audibly with my mouth so you get a feel of what's going on. When a person cries, let's take a baby that's crying, the first thing is you hear, ah, which is, of course, is the tekiah. Then you hear the groan, aha, aha, aha. That's called the gonach, the groan, something which we actually call a shavarim. The word shever means it's a long sound, but it's broken up into 3 groans. And then the baby sobs, which is what we call today a teruah, a staccato sob. And then, of course, the baby gives another big tekiah. So our sages were not sure. Does a teruah mean a groan? Does it mean a sob? Or does it mean a groan plus a sob? And since the Torah says teruah 3 times, therefore they ruled that what we should do is as follows. We should blow 3 times a groan plus a sob, meaning a shvarim and a teruah, 3 times just a groan, a shavarim, and 3 times just a teruah, a sob. And all of that has to be preceded and followed by a tekiah. So now let me introduce you to the words tashrat, tashat, tarat. If you take the first letter of the word tekiah, it's a taf. If you take the first letter of the word shevarim, it's a shin. The first letter of teruah is a taf, but we don't want to mix that up with the original tekiah, so we take the second letter, which is a resh, and followed by a tekiah, it reads tashrat. Tekiah, shevarim, teruah, tekiah. So that would sound do, the tekiah, do, shvarim, do, teruah, followed by do, tekiah. That's called tashrat. Then we have tashat, tekiah, shvarim, tekiah. And that goes to. That's called tashat. And then you have tarat, which is tekiah, and then teruah, followed by tekiah, Now, the reason we do all of that, as I said beforehand, is because we're not sure, is the word teruah, does it mean a shvarim plus a teruah? Or does it mean a shvarim by itself? Or does it mean a teruah by itself? And because of this doubt, we do all of them 3 times. So we blow tashrat, tekiah, shvarim, teruah, tekiah 3 times. Tashat, tekiah, shvarim, tekiah 3 times. And tarat, tekiah, teruah, tekiah 3 times. If you add up the number of koilis, the number of times you actually hear the shofar altogether, it comes to 30 sounds of the shofar. And consequently, in order to fulfill the mitzvah of blowing the shofar on Rosh Hashanah, one needs to hear those 30 sounds of the shofar. Now, usually, we do that in shul. But if a person is not attending shul, for whatever reason, then they must listen to it wherever they are, either to blow themselves or to have the shofar blown for them. Now, usually there are people, especially in Chabad, we make it our job to go out and blow the shofar for anybody who is housebound or cannot, or is in hospital or cannot hear the shofar. If you are in that situation, contact your local Chabad and they will make sure to send somebody around to blow the shofar for you. If you don't have somebody local, then it may be an idea to order a shofar online. Must be a kosher shofar. It should be bought from a kosher source with a hechsher, with a rabbinic stamp on it saying that it's a kosher shofar, and one should learn the laws of the blowing of the shofar in the Shulchan Aruch, in the Code of Jewish Law, and to blow for oneself. Now, what we're going to do now, just before we do the actual physical demonstration, is to go a little bit deeper into the length of each one of these sounds. The way I want you to think of it is a sandwich. I want you to think of a piece of bread at the beginning, a piece of bread at the end, and a filler. Now, the piece of bread at the beginning and the end needs to be as thick as the filler. And I'll explain what I mean. Let's start off with the trua, the sobs. Do, 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 do. I'd like to introduce you to a term. Each one of those do is called trumitin. Trumitin. So, a terua should be 9 trumitin long. Do, 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 do. 9 of them. A shavarim, do, do, do. Each one of those 3 blasts should be at least 3 trumitin long. So if a 3 trumitin is do, 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 therefore the shavarim, one of them should be do, do, do. You may actually hear the shavarim blown a little differently by certain people. So for example, in Chabad, we actually blow the shavarim as if it's almost broken itself. Do, 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 do. However, let's just follow the Shulchan Aruch now, as in a simple sound, do, 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 broken into 3. Each one of those 3 must be 3 trumitin long. So a shavarim in total is 9 trumitin. If that's the case, a shavarim terua is 9 trumitin for the shavarim and 9 trumitin for the terua. 9 plus 9 equals 18. That means that the tekiah at the beginning of a shavarim terua and the tekiah at the end of a shavarim terua must also be 18 trumitin long. That's what I said before. It's like a sandwich. The piece of bread at the beginning, which is the tekiah at the beginning, and the piece of bread at the end, which is the tekiah at the end, has to be as thick, as long as what's in the middle. Now, in the next set, which is tashat, tekiah, shavarim, tekiah, the shavarim in the middle is only 9 trumitin long. Do, do, do. And therefore the tekiah at the beginning and the end can be shorter. It has to be 9 trumitin long, or at least 9 trumitin long. And the same thing is with tarat, tekiah, trua tekiah. Since what's in the middle is 9 trumitin, do, 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 do. Therefore the tekiah at the beginning and the tekiah at the end should also be at least 9 trumitin. Now, many people ask, can you blow more than 9 trumitin by the terua? The answer is yes. So if you go do 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 do, that's fine. However, by the shvarim, and it shouldn't be, the shvarim and the teruah, it shouldn't be longer than 9 terumitin. So for example, by the shvarim, if you blow doo, 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 that's no good. Shvarim is as its name sounds, it must be a broken up sound. So it should be a minimum of 3 terumitin long and a maximum of 9 terumitin. So let me take you now through the 30 sounds of the shofar. I'm going to blow them with my mouth, and then we're actually going to get to the shofar. In certain shuls, they actually announce the names of the sounds. In Chabad, our minhag is that somebody points to them, but it goes like this. I'm going to announce them so that you'll know which ones I'm doing. Tikiyah. So this is Tikiyah of Tashrat. 18 terumitin long. Take a breath. Now you don't take a breath between the shvarim and the teruah. That's all done in one long breath. That is if you are in shul in the first set of the tkiyas, and if you're at home blowing for yourself. If you are the Baal Tokeya, the person who's blowing in shul during Musaf, you actually do take a breath in between them. But for a person who's blowing for themselves or for others, to fulfill their obligation the very first time, one doesn't take a breath. So you go shvarim teruah, which is altogether 18 terumitin. And then at the end, you blow a tkiyah of 18 terumitin. You do that 3 times. So you do tashrat 3 times. Tkiyah, shvarim, teruah, tkiyah 3 times. Then you do tkiyah, shvarim, tkiyah 3 times. You should take a breath after the tkiyah before the shvarim, and after the shvarim before the last tkiyah. And do that 3 times. Then you blow tarat, tkiyah, teruah, tkiyah 3 times. Take a breath. Take a breath. 3 times. And when you've done tashrat, tashat, tarat, tkiyah, shvarim, teruah, tkiyah 3 times, tkiyah, shvarim, tkiyah 3 times, tkiyah, teruah, tkiyah 3 times, you have fulfilled your obligation. Now, we're going to get on to the actual physical demonstration of how to blow the shofar. This is the shofar. Now, the shofar should be always held on the right side of the mouth in order to in order to get the Satan all disturbed by the blowing of the shofar, because he's on the right, and if you blow it, it disturbs him. And it should be held so that the shofar, of course, is going up. Now, of course, being a wind instrument, if you just blow into it, nothing's going to happen. You actually have to trumpet into it, like that. Most people who are learning how to blow the shofar, this is where they have some difficulty. So here's a simple piece of advice. What you actually need to do is sort of focus all the into that hole. And you need to really hermetically seal the rest of the lips so that all the wind is going into the hole and not going anywhere else. So a simple piece of advice is just to take your finger and place it, put the lips like this, and put the finger there, allowing a small orifice at the right side of the mouth. And keep it quite small. Then, in order to break up the sounds like the shvarim and the teruah, you insert your tongue in and out of that hole. So, like this. of course, in and out of that hole, which allows the sound to be broken up. So let me demonstrate that. You've got the shofar on the right over here. I would be standing. And of course, we make the bracha lishmoya kol shofar before we do so. If we're blowing for others, we should have in mind that they should also fulfill their obligation. They should also have in mind that they are fulfilling their obligation and say Amen. If one has already fulfilled one's obligation and blowing for others, it is preferable that the other person should make the blessing. So here we go. We put it here in the mouth and seal with our finger over here, and don't, but okay. So now let me take you through the tashrat, kashat, tarat, as it should be blown on Rosh Hashanah, but with a running commentary. First of all, we make the blessing. And of course, there's all the spiritual preparations of the blowing of the shofar, which is beyond the remit of this particular video, but it should be learned beforehand by the person who's blowing. The shofar has so many beautiful messages, and the voice of the shofar is, of course, the beautiful call for teshuvah, the call of connection to God, and Kabbalistically it brings down all the influence for the entire new year. It's a very spiritual and supreme moment. Here, in this video, we're just demonstrating physically and halachically how to actually blow it. But the spiritual dimension needs to be studied beforehand, and of course, the kavanot, what one has in mind when one's blowing the shofar, is very important. So here we go. Tekiyah. Note, it was 18 trumitin long. It's a long tekiyah because it's the tekiyah of the shvarim trua tekiyah. And since the shvarim and trua both together, the shvarim has to be 9 trumitin and the trua 9 trumitin. So therefore, the tekiyah at the beginning also has to be a long one. I take a breath and do the shvarim trua. Take a breath. Tekiyah. Take a breath. Tekiyah. Take a breath. Shvarim terua. Take a breath. Tekiyah. And the third time, tashrat, tekiyah. Take a breath, shvarim terua. I made a mistake. Let me start again. Take a breath. Take a breath, tekiyah. So I've done tekiyah, shvarim, trua tekiyah now 3 times. Then I pause. It says at that moment a person should have thoughts of teshuvah. And now we blow tekiyah, shvarim, tekiyah 3 times. But the tekiyah can be shorter this time, 9 trumitin long. Tekiyah. Shvarim. Take a breath. Take a breath. Tekiyah. Take a breath. Now if that happens, you may want to blow again. Take a breath. Take a breath. Tkiya. Take a breath. Shvarim. And take a breath. Tkiya. I'm just going to blow for you the Chabad way of Tkiya, Shvarim, Tkiya, so you're familiar also with the Chabad Shvarim. Sounds like this. I'll just do one of them. So you heard a slightly different way of blowing the Shvarim. Both of them are kosher. Now we're going to do the Tarat 3 times, Tkiya, Trua, Tkiya. So again, we have thoughts of Teshuvah in between, then we blow Tkiya. Take a breath, Trua. Take a breath, Tkiya. Take a breath, Tkiya. Take a breath, Trua. Take a breath, Tkiya. Take a breath, Tkiya. Take a breath, Trua. And the last one is called Tkiya Gedola, a long Tkiya, because of its length. We elongate it as if this is the long shofar blast of Mashiach coming. And that's how, physically and halachically, we should blow the shofar on Rosh Hashanah. Let me wish you all a ksiva v'chasima tova, lashana tova u'mesuka, may it be written and sealed for a good, happy, sweet, and healthy New Year. Lanu, for us, or L'chal Yisrael and all Israel. Amen.